Welcome to Divine Decode. Today, we're joined by Philippe Hunt, a man whose life took a radical turn after a profound encounter with the divine. From, li- li- from living years solely on manifestation to building a thriving business, and now empowering leaders to engineering miracles, his journey is a testament to what becomes possible when inner alignment meets unwavering faith. In this conversation, we explore how manifestation truly works, how soul prosperity fuels creation, and why miracles may be far more accessible than we think. Philip, it's so nice to have you on the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Charu. How are you?
Yes, great. I'm doing great. Thank you. So, Philip, your story of living for years through pure manifestation is extraordinary. What internal shift allowed you to trust that reality so completely?
That that's a deep question. There's a lot of internal shifts, and so I it started kind of with my hitting rock bottom. I grew up, had my whole story, and then I had a lot of trauma in my past, and I came to my rock bottom. I broke up with the woman I thought I was going to marry. My identity got stolen, and tens of thousands of dollars racked up on my credit. I went to reach out to find my birth family. I was adopted from birth, and found that my birth mother had passed away, but right before I met her, and so it was just a storm, and hit my rock bottom. Kind of gave up, and then I giving up, surrendering, I think is a real key for people when we stop trying to do it so hard ourselves, and we stop trying to figure it out our way and surrender to a higher way, that there's
Mm,
another possible alternative out there. And usually, when people stop trying so hard, then we get more into that flow and into that alignment. So that was my experience. And I woke up one morning with a billboard like vision right in front of me at 3 a.m. And it said, if any of you, it was a Bible verse, and it said, if any of you in this world think himself to be wise, let him become a fool that he may become wise. And it spoke volumes to me about how doing it my own way and doing it what going about life the way, society has conditioned us and how we're supposed to live and all, just wasn't working. And there's this whole other realm and paradigm that we can walk in. And so that started unfolding years after years after years. And I spent a lot of time in prayer and meditation and studying scriptures and studying faith and metaphysics and law of attraction and neuroscience and all these different things. But to answer your question, the shift came down to realizing that we are a powerful technology created in the image of the divine, and we have technology and faculties within us that are untapped and underutilized. And so when we understand how to align with our purpose, how to connect our mind and our heart, how to utilize our nervous system, we become much more electrical beings. And most people are working really hard. They're striving and taking a thought, which is electrical, turning into mechanical energy, working with our hands and our feet and, grinding it out, which is productive. It's powerful. I mean, the world's been created in that way, to a large degree, and you can accomplish so much. But there's a higher, more efficient way. And the shift is when you realize you can start working more internally and not as so much externally, because from the heart flow the issues of life. From our heart flow an electromagnetic
mm,
frequency, and we create a field. And when you can intentionally create a reality within, that's going to flow without. And you can do that through hard work, through grinding it out. You can do that. There's so many different ways, and it's not, right or wrong. It's not, you have to do it one way or another, but there's this continuum of entering higher realms of
Mm.
living and creation and manifestation. And when you become so aligned and so intentional and understand how to use those faculties of your brain, of your nervous system, of your heart and brain connection and all that, learning to harness and master and channel your emotions into your creative work,
Mm.
life just becomes so magical and miracles start unfolding and you're not trying to make things happen. You're receiving the reality within, enjoying the finished work, and then just watching it unfold in your life and seeing synchronicities and miracles. And it's a beautiful way of living.
Yes, yes. And I feel like that's very beautiful. But at the same time, I become curious for someone who wants to take that first leap, but they don't feel confident enough. They have this fear gripping them. What do you advise as their initial anchor?
Yeah, that's an important question. I would advise to do the opposite of what I did, which is start slow. I jumped in head first. I left my job. I had a successful business. I walked away from that and I dove in head first, which is very effective, very powerful. And I learned to swim because if I didn't, I would drown. So I learned it well and I learned it the hard way, so to speak. But for someone in that position that you're referring to, start with the little pieces. Start with a little something that doesn't feel so fearful, something that doesn't matter so much because the power of manifestation really comes through our nervous system and our heart flow. And if we're all tight and clenched up and worried and fearful, it's going to inhibit the flow of energy. And so manifestation can really come down to voltage and circuitry. It's an electrical experience. And Ohm's law says V equals IR. So voltage equals current times resistance. And when we remove the resistance, when we remove the limiting beliefs, the traumas, the fears, all that, then the current increases, the voltage increases, and the power of manifestation increases significantly. So start with something that's um, not life changing, not, world shifting. You don't need to go out there and create a massive miracle your first day. Just start with something little that would be fun. I think of $5 or a free cup of coffee or, a call from a friend. You tune into a reality and just enjoy the thought of it and get
Mm.
get immersed in that thought. Imagination is such a powerful faculty for manifesting. And my wife jokes about, like, she actually wrote a song before she met me about daydreaming and, like, come back to earth, come back to reality because 'cause you're daydreaming all the time, and turns out that was, like, the song for me. She didn't know about that. But I daydream so much, but then I see these realities unfold in life and these miracles and synchronicities, and so kind of getting lost in that imagination and daydreaming and understanding that it's not wasted time. N- it's not like you're not doing anything. If you hold on to that and understand that that's a seed sown in your subconscious that gets planted in your heart that then flows and unfolds in reality. It's so much fun to watch. So start with the small things and just enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm. True, true. So I guess it's take a leap of faith, but make the process small, consistent steps, right?
Yes, and enjoyable. Something
Yeah.
that you can
Mm.
enjoy because that's a powerful, flow of energy. When you're doing what you love and you're in your purpose, things flow so easily to you. When
Mm.
you're really grinding it out and if you wake up and you hate going to work, you're starting the day off just grinding, and
Mm.
that's a difficult way to live, and a lot of people do that, and, they grin and bear it, and that's respectable and that's good, but is that what you wanna do for the rest of your life? And so start with something that really brings you joy, that really brings you, whether it's a hobby or helping other people and seeing the joy in their heart is a really powerful way of tapping into that manifestation flow because what you put out will come back to you. You will reap what you sow. So when you help somebody else do something that brings joy to them, that's going to come back to you. And you learn to start to accumulate and build up this energy, and it's like an account. You're building your account with all this good energy you're putting out, and you're helping people, and you're sowing into others' lives and helping their dreams come true, and then inevitably it has to come back to you, and it's so much fun to see that happen in your life.
True, true. And I feel like also focus on the inner landscape rather than being swayed by the external factors, right? Which also brings me to your next the a topic that you so often speak about, soul prosperity. See, you often speak about the prosperity of the soul. How do you define soul prosperity in a way that helps people understand its practical impact on daily life?
Yes. So our soul is our mind, our will, and our emotions. And that's affecting our behavior. That's affecting everything we do. The reason we get up and do what we do is because of our belief system. It's because of what we've been conditioned to believe and how to act. And so our mind, what we think, our will, what we choose to go and do, and our emotions, which is a biochemical process. And it's all, this physiological system. um, it factors into absolutely every aspect of life, our relationships, our business dynamics, our family, our exercise, our hobbies. Everything we do is governed by our soul.
Mm,
So when we slow down and tune into our inner operating system, our soul, and really question, why do we do what we do? What is driving us, and what are the emotions surrounding this? Because our emotions, they say emotions are energy in motion, right? Our emotions are powerful faculties, and some people are afraid of emotions. Some people just kind of try to suppress it or don't know how to deal with it. But our emotions are powerful waves that we can learn to ride, and to become a master of our internal system really helps us affect our external reality. And
mm,
so, not just to suppress, not just to avoid, and not even to just confront, although confronting is the first step of really tuning into yourself, learning yourself, know thyself, is what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this? Where is this coming from? What is this connected to? Because our inner system, our soul, and our body is so intimately and intricately connected. And we
mm,
have so many memories, so many emotions, so many experiences that our body's holding that record. And so if you close your eyes right now and just think of an emotion of joy, and if you tune in, an experience, a memory will pop up.
mm,
And then that will unfold to another one if you stay with it, and it'll create this web of this network of memories and experiences all relating around joy. And so you can then cultivate that energy within you, build that energy, harness that energy, and put that into, your manifested desire.
mm,
um But so many of us have all these underlying emotions playing all the time because of unprocessed issues and baggage we're carrying on to that we haven't, dealt with because we're just going through the busyness of life.
mm,
Um, and that affects our health, our physiological system, that affects our relationships. Sometimes people have these just illogical, strange reactions to a normal situation. You're like, where in the world did that come from? And that's because there's all this underlying stuff going on, and it has very little to nothing to do with that situation, but it
mm,
triggered something that, they're living this reality within because of unprocessed issues. So those unprocessed issues, those emotions are pent up stored energy, And when we walk through that, we liberate a tremendous amount of energy within that we can then use to manifest and create the world around us. So slowing down, tuning into our soul and walking through those emotions and learning what governs our thoughts, our beliefs, our everything, our daily lives, that soul prosperity is key to not only manifestation, but living a successful, healthy, prosperous life.
So I think the first two steps of the process are awareness and acceptance, being aware of what we're truly feeling rather than focusing on the surface level emotions, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Because so many people, when it comes to manifestations, are trying to create their reality. Even if you're not trying to do it in, a miraculous way, you're just trying to change your job or, get a new relationship or better yourself. Um, eh, Doing it on a superficial level is like trying to put a pear on an apple tree. You're trying to change the fruit, but you're not changing the root. You're not getting to the deep underlying issue. And so getting down, getting deep, and it requires slowing down. It requires tuning in. Like you said it perfectly. That awareness is where it starts. Because if
Mhm.
you're not aware of what's happening, then you won't be able to change it. And
Yes.
shifting our intention, shifting our emotion, shifting the direction of our emotion helps us change our entire reality, but it starts with that awareness.
True, true. Understanding the code. And Philip, for someone who feels spiritually depleted, what do you think is the most effective way to begin restoring that internal imbalance or abundance?
Mm, I have been there. It's not fun to feel spiritually depleted, and when you're down,
Yeah.
um, and it's like everything's been pulled out from under you, and you have nothing, very, very little to nothing to rely on. You have to build back with just the tiny microscopic, like, nano pieces. So it starts I would recommend getting out in nature. That helps me tremendously because our bodies actually resonate with the frequency of creation, and that helps bring balance and restoration to our souls and our bodies. Getting around people who are, stronger spiritually, who are encouraging, who can lift you up, that's really powerful. I work with, a holistic technology called biophoton therapy, and science has shown that all living organisms emit biophotons, which is light, bio life, light, photon light, right?
Mm.
And so we are literally the light of the world. We're literally emanating light all the time. And that light carries information and it carries emotions and it carries physiological data so that we can communicate intracellularly on a micro level as well as a macro level. So individually with people. And that's how you can pick up and tune into people's emotions or hear their thoughts or, have empathy and compassion. Um, so when you get around people who are really bright, who are really vibrant, who are flying high. When you're at that place of spiritual poverty, like your light is so low. Like literally, that's not just a cute poetic saying. Science has now proved that your light is diminished and you can do things, you can get out in the sun, you can exercise, you can get healthy water, healthy um good air and breathing and eat good foods and all that stuff will help bring us back up. But uh, to really get around people who are spiritually sound and can lift you higher, that's one of the most powerful catalysts you can do for your spiritual growth.
Yes, yes. I feel like the feeling of community really helps. And now that I listen to you, I realize that connection is something that we only look at a macro level. And what's beautiful about what you said is that we might be connecting with each other on a micro level, even before we realize that, right?
Yes, absolutely. You can see it sometimes when people walk into a room and they light up the room, right? You can tune into their energy, or on the opposite side of that, some people are just so depressed and downers and they kind of suck the energy out of the room. And before you speak a word with them, sometimes before you even look at them, if you're sensitive enough, you're your body, your physiology, your electromagnetic field is tuning into them, and you're both sharing information. You're constantly
Mhm.
sharing information. So those who are more in tune and have more of a pure system, you can actually feel and sometimes interpret that information, but it's happening all the time,
Mm.
regardless of whether we're aware of it or not.
Yes, yes. And what I love about your framing is that you make it sound the soul prosperity as something tangible, something we can actually cultivate on a day to day basis. And which also, like, once people reconnect with that inner abundance, I feel like the next big question becomes how do we use it to create? And I feel like this is the point where manifestation comes. So, manifestation is a word that's used everywhere, yet often misunderstood. What, in your experience, separates genuine manifestation from wishful thinking?
So wishful thinking is a part of manifestation. It's the
Mm.
beginning of it. We need to have a desire, we need to have a wish, we need to have a goal, we need to activate our imagination. But if it stays there, then it just remains wishful thinking. So we live in this world of infinite potential, right? I use the analogy like you take the iPhone, for example. The potential for an iPhone existed thousands of years ago, right? The potential existed. The infrastructure was not there. You needed to create electronics and discover electricity and all these you needed to create the internal infrastructure, the idea, as well as the external infrastructure to facilitate that wishful thinking into 3D reality. So it starts with wishful thinking. It starts with a concept, with an idea, which may be kind of nebulous, kind of, ethereal, but the more you stick with that, the more your brain and your body will start to interpret that and bring order. And
Mm.
when you remain consistent and persistent and focused and dedicated to it, more and more order will come. Now, what typically happens is you see that order and then you start expressing it externally, which is great. You write down, you make a business plan or blueprint or whatever, and you start walking that out. And
Mm.
you connect with people or you do research and all that. That's all very well and good and very powerful, and people have accomplished amazing things with that. But if you hold on to that frequency, you hold on to that wishful thinking, so to speak, longer and longer internally, more and more order is going to come,
Mm.
and more order is gonna come, and what is happening is you're electrifying your system. You get so excited about it, you're seeing the potential, you're seeing the order coming together, and then you wanna go run out and do something. You wanna go make it happen. But if you can slow down and be patient with it and allow that order to continue cultivating and percolating within, you you gain even more excitement, more passion, and it's really it's a game. When you get to that level of, manifestation in the miraculous zone, it's waiting, 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 because you get these inspired actions, right? And
Mm.
it's good to act on inspired actions, but
Mm.
you can kind of play the game of chicken with the universe and say, "I'm not gonna move yet. I'm not gonna move yet. I'm not gonna move." As long as you hold that and don't let that die, it's gonna come closer and closer and closer and closer to you. And
Mm.
I have numerous testimonies of, how that's happened where, like, one time my wife and I were driving, and we wanted to go on a road trip in an RV, right? And we didn't have an
Mm.
RV, and we didn't have, tens of thousands of dollars at the time to spend on an RV, or we didn't wanna rent it or whatever. We just put out the intention. We had the desire. Now I had done all this inner work already, so I was a very clear vessel, and I've seen all these, miraculous testimonies. But, we just put out the intention and kind of forgot about it. A couple weeks later, her sister or sister-in-law texted her and said, "Hey, we are gonna buy an RV, and we wanna take you on a 30-day road trip." And so they went out and spent over 100 grand on an RV and brought our whole family, me, my wife, and our 3 children on a 30-day road trip, and they paid our way. And so that was one of those, like, it came right to you. It comes closer and closer and closer to you. And now that's awesome, and that's fun, and that's amazing, but there's all these different levels, and there's this continuum of manifestation. It doesn't have to happen that miraculously. It can meet you halfway. It can, there's all sorts of ways, um, but celebrate every victory. Whenever you see something come to fruition, whether it was through hard work, whether it was more, magically manifested, it's all it's all a manifestation. It's all so celebrate it and enjoy that moment because you created that. You're a creator, and that's amazing. Enjoy that.
Yes, yes. And I too truly believe in manifestation because for me, manifestation is like planning. And I've seen it work for me practically. I've recently graduated and I had this plan in my mind that, like, a timeline specifically, a timeline in which I would do stuff. So it so happened that naturally I started doing podcasts, which I wanted to do. And I started working on my original music, which I started to do. And so I feel like when I had this plan in my mind, stuff naturally came to me that I wanted. So for me, manifestation is planning and doing my work for it while thinking that I want that. So, yes, and I also feel like inner alignment and manifestation are like two faces of the same coin, right? And then inner alignment becomes the engine, it opens the door for what you call engineered miracles. So, Philip, let's talk about that too. You created the Catalyst framework to help leaders engineer miracles with ease. What is the core principle that makes outlier results suddenly feel accessible?
So it all comes back to the electricity, that we are electrical beings, right? And the more we work on electrical level, the more miraculous the manifestation is going to unfold. The more we convert that electricity to mechanical, the more we have to work it out. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're seeing it like even in electric vehicles, right? That's a popular thing these days. It's transitioning from mechanical to electrical. And the electrical vehicles have a lot less moving parts. They're more efficient. And someone who saw somebody who lived 50 years ago and saw an electric vehicle today would think that's just absolutely phenomenal. That's amazing. Um, and it is a remarkable technology. The same thing happens with our body. We can go from more mechanical to more electrical. And so the catalyst framework, a catalyst lowers the activation energy that's required for a reaction to occur.
Mm,
So it makes the outcome a lot easier. Right, and
mm,
just in a practical everyday sense, like negotiating a sale is a way of catalyzing. So there's several situations you could, if you're trying to buy a car for $80,000, you could try to talk the guy down to, well, I'll give you $60,000. That's lowering the activation energy. But what if you develop rapport and realize, oh, our sons are in school together and he wants to help you out. I'll give it to you for $50,000. There's favor there. And so that's an even more catalyzed effect. And there's also, he could just desire to give you the car, or maybe they want to have a tax benefit or whatever. They could just give you the car. So there's all these ways that manifestation can occur, and I work with that inner alignment with the catalyst framework to to increase your electrical conductivity by lowering the resistance, lowering the limiting belief factors. If there's trauma involved, if there's negative experiences from the past that would affect the
mm,
outcome of this, we go through the system both physiologically and emotionally and deal with your soul and your body to create as much of that alignment and voltage flow so that
mhm,
you have that clear, exact goal. You know exactly what you want, and that's part of it because you need that voltage flowing in the right direction, right? If you're scattered or if you have incoherent signals, just going out, it's not gonna light up that light bulb. You need
mm.
that perfect direct current going right to that goal, and when enough voltage hits that, your manifestation occurs. And so it takes kind of analysis of where you are, what you're capable of, and everybody's going to have different levels of manifestation. But
Mm.
the beauty of all the work that I've done when I come on board with somebody's project is I kind of act as a transformer, which steps up the
Mm.
voltage and helps. Like I add my faith to your project, and things transform remarkably from that. But I like to give you a fish and teach you the fish at the same time. So I help your system. I help teach you how to manifest, but I also add my power to it as well.
Mm. Mm. I like that, like the idea of miracle being being able to becoming more accessible by lowering the activation energy in a way, right?
Right.
Yes, and it also makes me want to talk about the other topic that you often speak about, holistic wealth. You emphasize true wealth as holistic prosperity across all dimensions of life. What do you see as the biggest barrier keeping people from achieving that level of integration?
Mm. So to be perfectly honest,
Mm.
the pursuit of money is
Mm.
what I see as the biggest barrier.
Mm.
Because if you're pursuing money at the expense of everything else, you're going to compromise your values. You're going to compromise your time. You're going to compromise your family. Um, and eventually money becomes your governing your God, essentially. And
Mm.
so when you live from a place of deep passion, deep purpose, when you live from integrity, when you're out there helping others, wanting to change the world, wanting to do what you were created to do, then money becomes a reward for living from your purpose, as
Mm.
opposed to trying to get money to do something. And it's a paradigm shift, and it's easy to say, but you need to really go back into that inner operating system and tune into why am I doing this? And
Mm.
so um a question I ask people is, if you won the lottery today, you won $500 million, you buy houses, you pay off all your loans, everything, you're set for life. You make the right investments, you're set for life.
Mm.
What would you still be doing today that you've been doing? And what would you stop?
Mm.
And that gives you kind of a little, you know, insight into what you're doing. And then take the flip of that coin and say, okay, if you lost everything and you can no longer monetize what you're doing, you don't get paid for your job, you don't get paid for your work, you don't get paid to do what you're doing. What do you continue doing, even though you're not getting paid?
Mm.
Because that will show you what really sticks with you, what's really meaningful to you. The things that stick around when it's not incentivized monetarily shows who you truly are. And then that will help you find your path and your purpose and your lane. And so when you live from that place, then that's the beginning of finding that true prosperity, that holistic health and prosperity.
Yes, I feel like sorting out your priorities and making sure that the very first priority you have on the list is your values, your meaning of life rather than money, right?
Exactly. Right. Right. 'Cause your values will be there all the time, but what if you lost the money? And money is great, money is a tool, money is powerful, money is currency, right? And
Mm.
currency is also an electrical term. And so when you understand the relationship between our electrical flow, and you can manifest money, not, miraculously. I've done this for 5 years, I live this way, and it's so much fun, but it's not. You're not out there chasing money. You're allowing money and opportunities or jobs or businesses or the right relationships. When you know exactly who you are and you're standing in that place of purpose and you're set on that, then you magnetically attract all the opportunities, the money, the business, the relationships. It comes to you. You don't have to go chase it down. So you're not compromising anything. You're not sacrificing yourself to go get something, but the right things will come to you.
Yes, yes. Like focusing on matching the wavelength of ours with the stuff's wavelength that we want, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Got it.
Yes. Philip, it was a wonderful conversation with you, and honestly, so many few stuff that I got to learn from you. It felt like a rewiring process for me. And for our listeners who would love to connect with you, can you please tell them the ways to do so?
Yeah, you can contact me through my website, philiphunt.coach.
Hmm. Great, great. So the website link will be in show notes. So I request all our listeners to go and check that too. So thank you very much, Philip, for coming on the show. It was truly a wonderful opportunity to have you on the show.
Thank you, Charu. It's fun. Bless you.
Yeah. Thank you for your insights. Philip's journey reminds us that manifestation isn't magic. It's a partnership between spirit, intention, and courageous action. If this conversation stirred something with you, consider leaning into that quiet pull towards alignment. Nourish your soul, trust your inner guidance, and open yourself to possibility that your own miracles may be closer than you think. Your life can shift beautifully and effortlessly when you choose to step into your divine design. Thank you for tuning in. This has been your host, Charu, and you've been listening to Divine Decode.